Beauty is a fleeting concept, but some stars become obsessed with the pursuit of an unattainable ideal. In a world where every step is under the spotlight, many are willing to do anything to preserve their youth and attractiveness. But what happens when this path leads to an undesirable result? When, instead of admiring glances, they receive judgment and ridicule? Who had surgery due to injuries, and who because of insecurity? Who wanted to please their husband, and who to escape bullying? And who decided to build their career on an obsession with plastic surgery? Let's find out how far people are willing to go in the search for eternal beauty. The most failed plastic surgeries of celebrities. Catwoman Jocelyn Wildenstein. Jocelyn Wildenstein, née Parise, is perhaps one of the most famous Swiss women. She gained worldwide fame not because of her background or professional success, but due to her radical changes in appearance as a result of numerous plastic surgeries. In her youth, Jocelyn changed men like gloves and enjoyed a bohemian lifestyle. Becoming part of elite circles, she met the well-known art collector and businessman Alec Wildenstein and married him. It is known that Alec had a panic fear of aging, so he and his wife decided to remove the bags under their eyes. Why Jocelyn didn't stop there and ended up resembling a lynx or lioness is the subject of legend. Some say she herself loved cats with an obsessive passion. Others claim that her husband was fond of big cats, and some believe the woman simply wanted to look younger next to the models that constantly surrounded Alec. Wildenstein himself claimed that Jocelyn wanted to redo her face like reupholstering old furniture. She had numerous injections, lifted her brows, inserted implants in her cheeks and chin, and much more. The billionaire's wife paid special attention to her eyes. Jocelyn wanted her gaze to resemble that of a cat, so she underwent several surgeries. During her marriage to Wildenstein, she spent about $4 million on beauty experiments. In the late 1990s, the couple went through a scandalous divorce, but the woman and her lawyers managed to secure annual support payments. Moreover, she got together with fellow plastic surgery enthusiast Lloyd Klein. In the last 10 years, Jocelyn rarely appears in public, and from the few available photos, it's hard to tell what she actually looks like due to Facetune. Her appearance causes mixed reactions. Some consider her a bold experimenter, others a victim of her own obsession. By the way, Jocelyn herself denies having gone under the surgeon's knife. Mickey Rourke, who lost his good looks. Philip Andre Rourke Jr., or simply Mickey Rourke, was once one of Hollywood's top heartthrobs. He began his film career in the late 1970s when he was about 25 years old, and his real breakthrough came in 1986 with the erotic drama 9½ Weeks. However, Mickey's career soon began to decline. That's when Rourke decided to take up boxing, which he had loved since childhood and practiced as a teenager. His boxing career caused significant damage to his appearance. Numerous facial injuries left marks that couldn't be concealed with makeup. It was then that Mickey decided to turn to a plastic surgeon to restore his looks. He underwent many plastic surgeries, each of which brought significant changes to his appearance. He had 5 operations on his nose to correct damage sustained during boxing matches. Another operation was done on a shattered cheekbone. There were also reports of several facelifts and a hair transplant. And in the early 2010s, Rourke had blepharoplasty. He was preparing to play Gareth Thomas, the legendary Welsh rugby player, and wanted to look good. But the planned film was never made. Mickey openly admits that his obsession with plastic surgery was a mistake. In interviews, he said that he wanted to regain his youth and attractiveness, but ended up losing his original appearance. Fortunately, he managed to reboot his career, and in 2023, he acted in The Palace, a comedy drama by Polanski, and before that, in The Expendables and Iron Man. Big-headed Hangmyeoku. Hangmyeoku was a well-known singer in South Korea. At the age of 28, she decided to improve her appearance, but became addicted to plastic surgeries, more specifically to facial injections. At some point, Korean doctors refused to continue the procedures and recommended she see a psychologist. Hang then continued disfiguring herself on her own by injecting black market silicone into her face. When she ran out of money, she couldn't stop her addiction and began using olive oil. The results were catastrophic. When the woman returned home to her parents, they didn't recognize her, and people around her began to mock her because of her disproportionately large head. But the problem wasn't only cosmetic. Her entire face was in excruciating pain, and her mouth wouldn't close. She only received help after becoming a participant in a reality show. She underwent a course of psychotherapy, and viewers raised money for surgeries to correct the situation. After that, Hangmyeoku underwent 10 operations. Doctors tried to restore her original appearance, but the damage was too severe. Today, Hangmyeoku is nearly 60 years old and works in a shop. Her face is no longer as swollen, but the scars will remain forever. Nevertheless, she openly shows her face and actively participates in television projects. By sharing her story, she warns others about the dangers of excessive addiction to plastic surgery. Drastically transformed Donatella Versace. The famous Italian fashion designer and businesswoman, sister of the legendary designer Gianni Versace, Donatella took over the management of the Versace fashion house after her brother's death, and became one of the most influential figures in the fashion world. Her contribution to the brand's development is enormous, but her name is also associated with numerous cosmetic procedures and surgeries that have drastically altered her appearance. In one of her interviews, Versace said that she once consciously decided to change beyond recognition to gain self-confidence. According to her, after she was left alone, she felt that the whole world was watching her, and those gazes hurt like sharp blades. So she created a kind of mask to protect herself. This is how the second Donatella was born, with bold makeup, an intense tan, cold, harsh, and intimidating. Her appearance began to change drastically around 2002. It is said that she underwent blepharoplasty, removing excess skin from the upper eyelids and bags under her eyes. There are also reports that she had a facelift to get rid of wrinkles and signs of aging. However, the result was mixed. The skin became tight and lost its natural mobility, and her face looks frozen and unnatural. Another change in Donatella's appearance noticed by experts is her nose. It appears thinner and more pointed than it was before. It has also been noted that Versace underwent procedures to change the shape of her lips. Usually, the lower lip is larger than the upper, but in Donatella's case, it's the opposite. Her upper lip is significantly larger than the lower one, clearly indicating a failed plastic surgery or cosmetic procedure. This may have been done using dermal fillers, fat injections, or lip implants. Donatella's cheekbones also look different from her youth, which could be the result of implants or fillers. Donatella herself says that she only used Botox. She stated that she only had injections in her face in an attempt to maintain her youth because she didn't want to look old among young models and wanted to stay in the spotlight for as long as possible. She expected to get a firm, fresh face but was left disappointed. The procedure went wrong and she failed to regain her youth. Combined with muscle hypertonia, her facial proportions changed. For example, her chin became smaller. Her jaw position shifted, and she now has to make an effort to keep her lips closed. There has also been much discussion about the designer's skin tone. This may be the result of laser resurfacing. The procedure is used to improve skin texture and remove minor imperfections, but overuse of such methods may have led to a loss of natural skin color and structure. In the end, Donatella ended up with a face that resembles a mask and lost her naturalness and liveliness. Her lips now look excessively enlarged, and her skin tight, and lifeless. This image has become the subject of much public and media discussion and criticism. Opinions are divided. Some believe that Donatella lost her individuality, while others claim she has the right to make any choice regarding her body. Human Ken Rodrigo Alves. British-Brazilian Rodrigo Alves became famous solely due to his transformation in appearance. His parents raised him as a Catholic, and he attended a religious school. The boy grew up withdrawn, as his peers often bullied him over his looks. They considered Rodrigo's nose too wide. He himself began to worry about it. He saw in the mirror an unattractive guy he dreamed of transforming into the ideals of Disney princes. When he was diagnosed with gynecomastia at the age of 17, breast enlargement due to elevated estrogen levels, he decided on his first surgery, removing the developed breast tissue. After that, Alves realized he was ready to go further under the plastic surgeon's knife. First and foremost, he decided to change his nose, which, according to him, took up half his face. He spent around 30,000 euros on these procedures alone. One of the surgeries nearly cost him his life due to complications, but even that didn't stop him. Alves' main goal became transforming into a human Ken, for which he underwent numerous procedures: facelifts, eyelid lifts, forehead and brow lifts, rhinoplasty, silicone implants to create muscular definition, removal of lower ribs for a smaller waist, liposuction, and other surgeries. By the way, his parents sent him to a psychiatrist who diagnosed him with an anxiety disorder, but even after treatment, his issues with body image didn't go away. Rodrigo was very bothered by his receding hairline, so he not only increased hair volume, but also changed the hairline itself. He got rid of body hair using laser hair removal, which cost 70,000 euros. Constant surgical interventions inevitably affected Alves' health. He experienced infections, inflammations, and swelling, and once an implant in his jaw burst. Many European clinics refused to operate on him, so he turned to doctors in Brazil and Iran. In January 2020, Rodrigo announced that he had gender dysphoria, distress due to a mismatch between physical and psychological gender, and that he was starting a new stage of life by transitioning. Thus, Rodrigo became Jessica, switching from the Ken image to Barbie. Now, Alves claims that as Jessica, she feels completely in harmony with herself, both externally and internally. These physical metamorphoses help the flamboyant celebrity earn a living. She regularly appears on various TV shows, for which she receives hourly pay. Moreover, she's invited all over the world. In addition, she turns her plastic surgeries into a reality show of her own. Frankenstein's bride, Katie Price. British Katie Price was a sought-after photo model, dabbled in music, and was planning to participate in Eurovision. However, in addition to her successful career in the entertainment industry, Katie also gained widespread fame due to her numerous plastic surgeries, which led to undesirable consequences. Katie began changing her appearance at a young age. According to her own admissions, the desire to look perfect was tied to pressure from society and the media industry. At the start of her career, she aimed to conform to the beauty standards set by the world of show business. Over time, this dependency grew into something more than just a wish to be beautiful. Price admitted she felt compelled to continue with surgeries in order to maintain a certain level of attractiveness and remain relevant in the public eye. Katie underwent a huge number of plastic surgeries, including breast augmentation, liposuction, rhinoplasty, Botox injections, and fillers. One of the most talked about procedures was her repeated breast enlargements. She first had breast augmentation at the age of 20, and since then, her bust size has been increased multiple times. It was reported that this led to serious health problems, including infections and other post-op complications. Another surgery on her face also ended in complications. Whether due to medical error or an infection, after leaving the clinic, Katie's skin couldn't withstand the aftermath, and she ended up looking like Frankenstein's bride. She instantly regretted going under the knife, but had to do it again to fix the damage. Katie now calls her bust the biggest in the UK, but due to her obsession with plastic surgery, she lost her modeling contracts. As a result, Price now takes part in scandalous reality shows. Most likely, her plastic surgeries serve as one of the methods to attract attention to the TV programs she appears in. Deathly pale Joan Van Ark. This American actress once found success on Broadway and in Hollywood. However, none of her roles brought her as much attention as the changes in her appearance. Joan began altering her looks in the 1990s. She first had blepharoplasty to remove drooping eyelids and wrinkles. However, the surgery provided only temporary results, as the wrinkles returned due to her thin and dry skin. The same happened after her facelift. For a while, the actress truly looked younger. But soon, her skin became tight, saggy, wrinkled, and took on an unhealthy bluish tone. The reason may lie in her excessive tanning habit, which caused her fair skin to thin, lose elasticity, and acquire a deathly pale appearance. Van Ark also changed the shape of her nose. It remains a mystery what she was trying to fix, as there was no improvement in her appearance. On the contrary, the tip of her nose became pointed, and cartilage and irregularities became visible. The actress's breasts also underwent significant changes after surgery. Joan initially chose a relatively small size, so the result of the operation was barely noticeable to others. But with age, the implant began to show clearly through her sagging skin. Deep wrinkles and the bluish tint of her skin could have been concealed with makeup. But Van Ark's makeup artists seemed to deliberately emphasize all the flaws in her appearance. Unnatural brows in the wrong shade, heavy eyeliner around the eyes, and pale lips. This is how the actress appears at social events. Cartoonish Carrot Top. Carrot Top's comedic talent and curly red hair made him one of the most prominent stand-up comedians of the early 90s. He still performs comedy today, but in recent years, his appearance has drawn increased attention. Over time, Carrot's face became more lifted thanks to Botox injections. There are also rumors that he undergoes chemical and laser facial peels, designed to improve smoothness and skin texture. It's noticeable that his face has not only become smoother, but his freckles have also disappeared. Most likely, Top had his lips enhanced with fillers, and there were also rumors that he gained muscle mass not naturally, but through steroid injections. The fact is, his muscular body appeared almost magically, rather than after months of intense training. Carrot's eyebrows are now positioned significantly higher than before. He's even been compared to the character from the popular film It. It's assumed he had an upper facelift, although he denies any surgical procedures. The comedian claims his transformation is due to lifestyle changes. He says he lost weight, started working out, and quit smoking. Nevertheless, it's hard not to notice that Carrot Top now resembles a cartoon character more than a real person. His eyebrows have become more prominent and unnatural, and his skin, treated with lasers and chemical procedures, has taken on a yellowish hue, giving his face the appearance of a wax figure. He himself gives mixed statements about his current look, sometimes joking that he'd look better if he actually had plastic surgery, and at other times confidently telling haters, "I'm sorry I look good." Pixie Fox as Jessica Rabbit. Model Pixie Fox became famous after she began undergoing plastic surgeries to look like cartoon characters such as Jessica Rabbit. Her first surgery was in 2009, and since then, she has undergone 200 procedures. Pixie, who lives in the US, flew to India to change her eye color through a risky procedure not performed in Europe or America. She also traveled to South Korea to alter her jawline, another extreme procedure that could have led to paralysis. It's said that she also changed the shape of her nose and ears to look more like a Disney princess. Pixie underwent multiple breast enlargement surgeries, increasing her chest to enormous proportions. She also enhanced her buttocks and lips using fat from her legs and abdomen. In addition, she had a butt lift and liposuction, and to achieve an extremely slim waist, she had 6 ribs removed. Since then, she can't live without a special waist corset. The girl eagerly spoke about her numerous surgeries on various TV shows. She was convinced she had made herself into perfection. However, her family raised the alarm, fearing that her body wouldn't withstand such strain and that she might die on the operating table. At some point, the cosmetic procedures indeed began to affect Pixie's health. One of the surgeries went wrong, leading to complications. Her brain was somehow damaged. The model spent several months recovering and later admitted that she had planned to promote the surgeon's services, as she usually did, but this doctor nearly cost her her life. After that, Fox decided never to go under the knife again and focused on her recovery. Plastic surgery enthusiast Joe Chuna. Few people know this Chinese girl's name, but several years ago, she shocked internet users with photos of herself after plastic surgeries. The scandalous part was that Joe Chuna was only 13 at the time. This young Chinese influencer, with over 300,000 followers on a Chinese microblogging platform, built her online career through plastic surgery. She documented her radical transformation from an ordinary girl into a doll-like ideal. At just 12 years old, she began begging her mother to let her get plastic surgery. This was because, from a young age, the girl faced mockery from her peers. No one wanted to be friends with her. She was given humiliating nicknames, subjected to cruel jokes, and always assigned the hardest classroom chores, while pretty girls were treated kindly. Jo herself described her eyes as too small and her nose as too big. She quickly realized that her life wouldn't improve unless her appearance did. So at 13, she decided to undergo her first surgery to change the shape of her eyelids. It worked, and the other kids actually started talking to Chuna. So she got hooked and began having one surgery after another. Over the next 4 years, the girl tried nearly every cosmetic procedure. The total number exceeded 200. For example, she altered the shape of her ears, breasts, and neck and underwent liposuction. Altogether, she spent over $600,000 on these surgeries. As a result, her chin became unnaturally small, and her eyes enormous. When commenters pointed this out under Jo's photos, she responded that she's simply striving for beauty, and those who don't understand are just jealous. There are many strange things about this story. The most popular question people ask about this young plastic surgery enthusiast is, are minors even allowed to have surgeries in clinics? Jo answered that she finds small clinics willing to overlook her age. The money comes from her parents, whom Chuna threatened to drop out of school and find a way to pay for the surgeries herself if they didn't support her. Even so, the girl's new face looks extremely unrealistic. Surgery can do a lot, but not everything. And in Facetune, any proportions can be drawn, especially since the background in the photos often appears warped. Despite reports of serious side effects from her plastic surgery addiction, such as memory loss and permanent scarring, the girl believes the sacrifices are worth it. She openly states that she plans to continue with plastic surgeries because she'll never be satisfied with her appearance. The only thing I regret is not starting surgeries earlier, says Chuna. And whose transformation impressed you the most?